Hello, my good human. Welcome back to the channel. I'm Luana from luanarose.com. Here on my channel, I talk about all things nervous system, relational health, and trauma healing. In today's video, I'm answering the question, what does a fight, flight, freeze, fawn response, a stress response, feel like? Right off the bat, I want to define a survival or stress response so we can be clear for the rest of the video. So a stress or survival response is our body's natural subconscious reaction to danger. It's called the fight, flight, freeze, fawn response. And our bodies have developed this natural subconscious and automatic way of responding to a threat or perceived threat over thousands of years. Back in the day, our human species, had immediate danger around us all the time. Wild animals, warring tribes, and other threats. So as humans evolved, we developed this mechanism, this survival physiology mechanism within us called the fight, flight, freeze response. And it has really done well to keep us safe and evolving over many, many years. When we're faced with an immediate danger, we have this automatic response that happens. Fight, flight, freeze, and later on the fawn response came right in. So it's helpful when we're running away from a tiger. As we were evolving, we had to run away from wild animals, or even now some people still need to run away from wild animals. So it happens automatically. We don't have to think about it. It actually mostly turns off the prefrontal cortex, so our higher brain or more evolved human brain, that specific part of our brain that makes us human. It'll generally shut most of that off, and our instinctual lower brain will amp right up, and that's where that survival stress response really comes in and helps us survive, which can be so helpful when we're in immediate danger, like running away from a tiger. But it's really unhelpful when this automatic response to a perceived threat comes in on a first date and we can't find our words, we're freezing, I don't know what to say, or public speaking, and again, those words just floated right out of my head, even though I practice 5 million times. Or for children learning at school, if their system has this mechanism, stress response turned on, then it's really hard to learn, sit still, and engage with other people and the learning content. Our bodies do other things when the fight, flight, freeze, or survival stress response is turned on, such as sending the circulation and blood flow to our larger muscles, more in this area of our body. So our extremities don't have as much blood flow going there, such as our hands and our feet. This is where the saying cold feet comes in. I'm getting cold feet for that presentation or marriage. It's most commonly used. So blood flow from our extremities into our torso. We also get cold and clammy hands, and sometimes we can shake and tremble when we're really nervous. That's our fight, flight, freeze, fawn response coming right on in. It turns on our adrenal glands, which pump out adrenaline, a hormone that we naturally create, and this adrenaline gives us short bursts of energy, quick energy, so we can move fast away from the threat. And then it's supposed to turn off. That adrenaline production is supposed to turn off. And if it doesn't and it maintains throughout our day, then we can have the shakes. Our digestive system will turn off because efficiency-wise, it's inefficient to digest a sandwich when we're running away from a tiger. So that digestive system turns right off. We can get a dry mouth. We can pee ourselves or defecate. There's also that saying, I was so scared that I pooped myself. The body really is smart when it is perceiving a threat and I need to run away as fast as I can. I need to make myself as light as I can. So pooping, right, which you'll hear on my channel or if you work with me, it flushes the system out so that I am lighter and I can run faster away from the tiger or the perceived threat. The stress response, or fight, flight, freeze, fawn response, heightens our senses, so our tactile senses. Seeing, our vision can get blurry and it can become tunnel vision. Our heart rate will either spike, go up, generally with fight or flight, so the blood pumps quicker, right? Because the heart is in control of pumping the blood to our body to help us run away, back to the muscles, the important muscles to help us move fast. Or our heart rate can go down, more so with fawn or freeze. Of course, our heart rate goes down, it affects our circulation, our cardiovascular system as well. We can also lose the elasticity in our muscles. They can become really soft and kind of ineffective, more so with fawn or freeze response, and that's over a long term generally. Or we can have muscle tension that just never goes away. So these are all related to the fight, flight, freeze, fawn response. Fight, flight, freeze response also turns off our immune system, which is the body's way of efficiently conserving and distributing energy where it's needed so that we can stay out of harm's way. But if we're in a constant, chronic fight, flight, freeze, fawn response, then it means our immune system is turned off almost all of the time. This is where diseases like autoimmune disease comes in. It's also very common to see folks that have experienced early developmental, meaning in utero, at birth, first 3 years of life, adversities to experience the conservation mode physiology. Mostly that's how life is experienced, and therefore the immune system will be suppressed and they won't get sick very often. It's not actually meaning that optimal health is there, it just means that that immune system has been shut off for so long that it's not functioning optimally. We also can look at folks that get sick often, and it's generally correlated with being stressed often, because if the fight, flight, freeze, fawn response, stress response is turned on most of the time, that immune system will be turned off most of the time. Let's shift gears and talk about how you can identify a stress response, what it feels like, some behaviors that come along with the different kinds of stress response, fight, flight, freeze, fawn. And let's start with fawn because I find it's the least talked about and yet it's the most common. So starting with the fawn response, physiologically it can feel like numbness or somatic disassociation. Behaviorally, more so, it can be complying, it can be bending to whatever the person or thing in power wants or needs, compliance. Consistently putting other people's needs or wants before our own. That is generally some attributes of the fawn response. The freeze response can feel like a collapse in the shoulders generally and in the heart area, hiding, numbness. The freeze and fawn response are like best buds. Slowed breathing. Again, the blood flow moving away from the extremities, so cold hands, cold feet, this feeling of immobility, like I can't move, something inside of me is just stuck and I can't move. Breathing slows down or feels stuck. Immobility also, like in life, we just can't move forward, I'm stuck. At an extreme, I can't get out of bed in the morning. That's the freeze, conservation, immobility response there. The freeze response can also feel like hiding or shrinking, not wanting to be seen, because back in the day, if we play dead, freeze, we're actually keeping ourselves safe and out of harm's way from the predator, whether that's an animal or another human. Moving on to the flight response, hypervigilance, being hyper aware of everything in the environment. The heart rate goes up, panicky, we can kind of run hot, shallow breathing, quick heart rate, and muscle tension or a dry mouth. The fight response, defensiveness, being on edge, ready to defend and fight, even when we don't need to. Again, muscle tension, higher heart rate, shallow breathing, being confrontational, throwing a fit, or literally throwing a punch. A common thing that I see, just on a little side note, is fighting for justice, which of course is from a good place in our heart. I've worked with a lot of activists, and if their fight for justice, which of course is always good intended, is from this survival physiology, it can lead to burnout really quick, exhaustion. It's not something that's really talked about in the activist field, but this fight, flight, freeze, fawn response is generally, for a lot of folks, underlying, and that fight response it's good. We can fight, but just not with that underlying stress physiology going on, because it can just run us into the ground. So the fight, flight, freeze response is designed when and for situations where we need to act fast. We need to mobilize into action and make something happen quick, and then we can rest after. So for example, I have a puppy. If my puppy is in the middle of a street and unaware of the cars, I can mobilize into action quickly, run out, grab and save my puppy, and get off the street quick. That is what this fight, flight, freeze, fawn response, in that scenario, it would be flight and flee is designed for, and we're meant to come out of the stress response after quite quickly. The problem happens when we're constantly having this subconscious automatic reaction. This stress response, fight, flight, freeze, fawn, is perceiving threat constantly. So that can be emotional, relational, physical threat. The problem is that it gets stuck in this stress response, this elevated, amped up way of living and being. And over time, it creates illnesses. So we can go from having a constant dry mouth, constant, knot in my stomach, insomnia, troubles breathing, having that chest constriction happen, to panic attacks, autoimmune illnesses come up, and a myriad of other mental and physical illnesses and health problems. So that's what the problem is that most folks are stuck in this stress response to some degree, right? It's a spectrum. That wraps up this video today, talking all about the fight, flight, freeze, fawn stress response. I hope you learned something new. Leave a comment below if you have any more questions about this topic, and stick around on my channel and watch other videos, because I made a few more talking about this stress response. Be sure that you subscribe if you like this video. If you didn't like this video, subscribe anyways, because there might be one in the future that you prefer. And I will see you very soon. Have an amazing day.